What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 163 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, Mr. Ken Hicks.
What it do?
Welcome back, my friend.
Yo, it's good to be back. And you know what? You said you wanted to talk about Pokemon, so I said, okay, I'll be there.
Yeah, I feel like you're like our channel's like Pokemon Beetlejuice. If you say Pokemon enough, you just apparate, and then we get to talk Pokemon.
Yeah, and I'll be there every day. You thought I'd get tired of it after 5 or 6 years when I was a kid. Nah, I'm 31 and going strong.
Oh yeah, that is like
injected in my veins.
It's my favorite thing that like it's like a bit with my dad, where he'll bring that up, whenever Pokemon just like I got my Ivysaur tattoo right a while ago, and he's just like, man, he's like, I never thought that this would still be a thing in your 30s, you know? You're still out here rocking and rolling as Pokemon Master. Good for you, kid.
When I meant it when I said I want to be the very best, no one ever was.
True.
I'm coming after you, Wolf Glick.
I'll tell you what, it's fun. It's, I think, validating for at least my parent in that way, because I know he's like, hey, all it means is that all that time that I spent watching the anime with you and taking you to the 4 movies or whatever, time well spent, right?
Yeah, we have been blessed with parents who very much supported our hobbies.
Oh, yeah.
I do not take that for granted.
No,
I
not
do
at all.
not.
Speaking of which, a blast from our, at least my childhood past. I know you're still in that game every day. Pokemon TCG Pocket dropped this last week, and it is making some waves. It's doing pretty good in its first couple days, I should say. It's made $12 million in its first 4 days on the market, which is pretty awesome. That's a big win. Obviously, word on what the I don't know what the budget for development was on it or anything like that. But as a point of comparison, Pokemon TCG Live, which was the other Pokemon trading card game app that has been around for 3 years, right? It's made more money in 4 days than that game.
It's been around for a while. They recently did a pretty massive. I want to say Pokemon TCG Live has been around for 9-10 years or something nutty like that.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that old. Okay,
let me see. Pokemon TCG Live wiki. When did that come out? Because it's been around for as long as the code cards have been in the game.
Just to point it out, this game wildly unpopular. 2.9 on the Apple App Store. A lot of people not a big fan of this one. So this game Pocket has definitely come out to a lot more fanfare.
Yeah,
and that
so it's been out since 2011. I just looked it up.
And TCG Live is shutting down, right?
So it was originally the Pokemon trading card game online. Then they did a revamp of it, and they turned it into Pokemon TCG Live. And TCG Live came out in 2022 in beta, and a global launch last year. So, but it's the same game. Your cards carried over, all the code cards still work. It's the same game, but they made a lot of quality of life improvements.
Yeah,
but
well, it doesn't seem like people still don't seem to like it very much.
Well, the thing with that, and the biggest difference, and why I think this game is making so much more money, Pocket TCG, is because the barrier of entry is a lot lower. Every time you buy a Pokemon card pack, you get a little code card, you can scan it, and then upload it into the game, and you get a pack in the game. Which means that for every pack you're open, you're spending money. But with this, you get 2 free packs a day, 3 if you pay the $10 monthly subscription. It's a lot easier just to click a button and spend $10 to open up some extra packs than it is to go out to the store.
Not to mention it has the mechanisms for the rental decks and stuff like that. You get cards that you can play with even if you don't own a lot yet, as you're unlocking stuff. Just for a point of reference, right? You downloaded it the second day it came out. I downloaded it the day it came out. I don't know what level you are, but I think I'll look and confirm. But I already have like a very significant number of the cards in the available set that exists right now, and I haven't spent any money.
Now, to be fair, did you take advantage of like the 2 week free trial of the monthly pass?
I haven't yet. I'm going to, but I wanted to see like just to inform this conversation, like how far would I get in a week of playing, even somewhat casually, because I was on vacation, so I wasn't like glued to my phone playing all the time, but just casually playing every day, opening packs that I've earned naturally, using the currency from completing missions and stuff. I'm level 11. I'm literally one activity away from level 12. And I have, let's see, I have 306 cards, but my Pokedex, I have 127 out of 226. So
let's see. So
I'm a significant, I'm 50% of the way through this set in a week without spending any money. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, it's always the last few cards, like both in this game and in real life, those like 0.05% chance of you getting that's going to take a while to get. Now I have 300, I think, 338 cards, and I'm level 13. But fun fact, pro tip: I'm not sure if they patched it out or if they will. They probably will. But did you know about the refresh when you first open up your account? Because what you do is that you create your account and then you link it with your Gmail or your
Nintendo account.
Google Play Nintendo account. Yes. But if you make an account, you get like 10 free packs for doing like the opening tutorial. So what people do is that they do the tutorial, they see if they get anything good in those first 10 packs. And if they don't, they just delete their file and start again. And they just do that over and over until they get a good starting deck.
That's really funny.
So that's what I did until I got my immersive rare Pikachu.
Yeah.
And then I started continuing.
That card is so good.
Yeah, and then I got super lucky. I got the Charizard right afterwards. I'm like, I got the hot pants.
Dude, I'm really pleased with that aspect of it, because I know, like, when you and I were first messaging about it, I was complaining that I was like unlucky and I wasn't pulling the cards that I wanted, or I wasn't pulling like cool EX cards. And then like a day later, I pulled both Blastoise and Zapdos, which are two excellent cards and two of my favorite Pokemon. So I have decks built around both of them now, and like I love it. I have two very, very, like, they're not perfectly optimized yet, but they're competitively viable. I'm
like you could have casual games with your friends.
Yeah, and like play through the high level like bot matches and unlock all that stuff. I'm still working my way through the last couple of those. But yeah, I'm having a really great time with it. I think it's a lot of fun, and as somebody who's like a lapsed TCG player, I found it to be really easy to jump in and pick up and like apply the knowledge that I have from playing the game, like way like in the 90s, right, in the early 2000s, and like feeling like there was a good amount of continuity in terms of like the stuff that I needed, like the core mechanics of like how your bench works and putting Pokemon out, and like there's some changes, right, like to this game from the core game where like you get energy every turn instead of having to draw the cards, and there's some things like that.
Which perfect for a mobile game, not for nothing.
Yeah,
it reminds me of Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links in a sense,
sure,
where they kind of tweak the rules a little bit to work better on mobile, but the core of what the game is the same. The card game itself,
right?
And this I can see being a entry point to actually playing the game. Like back in like 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, I got neck deep into collecting Pokemon cards. I still do, not to the same volume because I spent thousands of dollars on those cards, literally. But the value has gone up, so I'm not mad. But I never actually got into playing the game after I started collecting. After playing this, I can see myself like, okay, so like if I spend $30 and I buy singles off online, I might be able to get like a physical deck, and maybe that can get people more into the community and, further ingrain myself in the Pokemon cog of the machine.
Yeah, and I think even if it doesn't lead to that. I think it's just a smart thing because like digital card games are like a really very very popular, segment of games as a service, right? Like I think they're one of the types of game that lends itself to that the most, and it doesn't feel as long as the game is balanced and you're not like overly rewarded for spending money to the point where it's like impossible to compete if you don't, then they end up making a ton of money and they're a lot of fun, and as evidenced by this, right? Like I mean, this is 12 million in 4 days is like I'm sure that this is a lot of folks that either already are playing games like Marvel Snap or MTG Arena or Hearthstone.
Yeah, there are a lot now that you list them like that.
Yeah, I mean those are only like the really popular ones too, right? Like there's a bunch like there are other ones that are less popular that still have an audience. Because I mean ultimately like trading card games are fun, and I think like particularly if it's like has like an IP hook like this that you are like you love Pokemon, you have nostalgic memories of collecting cards. Even if you play and you're not that good, like you'll have fun opening the packs and kind of going through that song and dance with it.
And just getting like your daily pulls that makes you want to log in every day just to get your 2 packs or whatever it may be.
Yeah, which
it's a really good business sense and has synergy across everything that they do.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where like if it encourages you to go and start picking up physical cards, great, but even if not, I mean this will make a ton of money anyway if they keep releasing content and we don't end up in a period where like cuz I think the thing that ends up hurting a lot of these games the most is either over monetizing or like balancing issues,
Yeah, like right now, like if you spent money on the game, there are pretty much 2 decks that are dominating the meta for the most part. The Mewtwo and the Charizard deck. I hate to say it. I wish it were the Venusaur deck. That'd be dope.
Deeply unsurprising.
But like, yeah, no, those decks are dominating the meta. But the one thing I do appreciate about this is that let's say you get duplicate cards, because you never want to have, I'm not even sure if you can have more than 2 of the same card in a deck. Yeah, okay, so you can't. So any of the duplicates you get beyond that get converted into a currency that you can save up and eventually just get individual
cards. How do you do that?
Cards.
How do you convert them into currency? I didn't know you could do that.
It happens automatically. I'm pretty sure as far as the currency.
Wait, does it? No way. There's definitely cards I have more than 2 of.
Well, 2 of a particular version. Like if you have like a full art version, you can get 2 versions of that, and then you can have 2 versions of like the non-full art.
I know that I have like if I go to my deck builder right now, right? How does that work? That's so interesting. So okay, build new deck, right? I have like I'm just looking at the first few cards that come up. I have 3 Caterpie. I have 4 Metapods. So like I definitely. They're not auto-converting into a currency for me.
Well, I definitely have... I have yet to buy any of the cards with that currency because if you want to get like an EX, it takes a lot of points, to be fair. It's not something you can...
And those you get from just opening packs as well, right?
Yeah.
The like pack
where
points?
Is it? Yeah, pack points, I think is what they are. But
because I think you can use the duplicates once you have more than 2. You can use them for flair. Is the thing, right? Like you can combine them and then like that's like another function that you can go through. Like I'm looking at like I said, the Caterpie, and it looks like you can go into like the deck builder, and then when you click on any given card, there's like this little, it's obtain flair, and you can use the duplicate card, and then there's also like I don't know what this currency is called, but it's like a bottle with like sparkles in it, and you can.
Oh, okay. So I found it. It's the Pack Point Exchange. Bonus when you consume stamina to open a booster box. So maybe you were right. I misunderstood. It's just when you open a pack, you get these pack points with the Pack Points Exchange.
Okay, all right. I was about to say, I was like, if I can exchange them instead of the flare thing, then I definitely want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's on me. I'm tripping. That's what I mean. Like, this is what the game does to you. It makes you think about like different things. Like, I've been hearing like schoolyard rumors and theories about this game that I am pretty sure have been debunked at this point. Like, do you know about the crimp theory, where if you like go to select a pack to open and you go through each one of them, yeah, you can flip them. And some of them, if you look at them on the side, they're a little bent like the foil at the top. There was a rumor that those bent corners have a higher hit percentage. Or if you go through the things and you already see one pack that's already flipped over, that it affects the odds. Like you have a better shot of getting a rare card if you do that. But it has since been confirmed that the second you hit the open pack button, the cards you get in the pack are predetermined.
Right.
It's
even if you scroll to one of the other packs, it's the same every time.
Yeah, because if you open up, if you hit open pack, you don't select one, but you close out the game and open it back up. It says, "Hey, here are the cards from your pack." The same thing with the what was it called? The Wonder Picks. The second you accept you want to go with the Wonder Pick, the item or card that you get is predetermined. It doesn't matter which of the 5 cards you do. Like the game is already picked which one you want to get. So it is random. It's not rigged, with the exception of like the first pack. Like depending on which pack you open up in the beginning, that dictates whether you get a Charmander, Bulbasaur, or a Squirtle card. But with the exception of that, there's no like I saw people like try to like screen record the things to see where the cards are going to game the system that way. But no, you can't. It's all random, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, because like, can you imagine if you could game the system?
Yeah.
And if the crimp packs did have a slightly higher odds, and every time you want to open a pack, you went through and inspected each individual pack for you. That would be so annoying.
They would also definitely patch that out if they realized people were gaming the system, right? It's like there's no universe where they're gonna let you do that.
But like even just from like a user perspective, I don't have the patience for that. I'd be like, nah, I ain't doing that.
I don't care. I'll open the garbage packs. It's fine.
But so I guess like, what don't you like about it? Now, granted, it came out a week ago. There are a lot of improvements that I'm sure that will roll out different events over time. Yeah. But is there anything that just kind of immediately like hit your gut a little weirdly? Something you don't like?
Yeah, there's one thing I really, really hate. Which I think is a really, this sounds super dramatic, but I don't think it's unfair to say that I think it's just like an utter failure of game design, which is, the way that they handle, first turns is garbage. Like, and maybe you understand the game more than me, and you can, explain this if I'm wrong, but like there is literally no advantage. There's no situation where it is advantageous to go first. Because and again,
you can't put an energy on your Pokemon.
You can't put an energy on your Pokemon. So I cannot tell you how many times I've had games where it's been decided because turn 1 they play Rattata or Pikachu EX or whatever, something that can on the next turn evolve and hit me for a lot of damage because they got because I won the coin toss and I go first, and there's literally no advantage to going first. And there are a few things that you could do to make that not a garbage system.
There's one very easy thing they could have done to make that better. You can't attack your first turn, but you can put an energy on your Pokemon the first turn.
Yep,
and then
you could do
that. You
that.
actually can attack. You have 2 energies to work with instead of 1.
You could
That's
also
all they have to do.
You could do that. You could also easily do a situation where we flip a coin and whoever wins the toss gets to decide whether they want to play first or draw first. Or I'm sorry, not draw first. That's how Magic works. That's the other way you could make it fair is if you play on turn 1, you can place an energy and attack sooner, but you don't get to draw a card. That would be an advantage. You could make it that if you go first and you're not able to attach an energy and attack the next turn, that you can evolve your Pokemon on turn 1 because placing them on the bench counts as placing them. Like there are a million different things you could do to give some level of consolation for the fact that you're going first, but as it stands, it's literally a coin flip on whether you're going to start the game with a disadvantage, which is stupid and just like so unbelievably frustrating when it causes you to take an L. because
it happens all the time.
And there's no reason for it to be that way. There's no good, legitimate reason for that to be the way that mechanic works, and yet.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that I do hate how so many of these cards come down to a coin flip. Like, I know there's like RNG with the Pokemon games, like critical hits and burns and things like that, but I feel like when it's a literal coin toss as your main attack, and some of the strongest cards come down to a coin toss, like there's this one card that it's like if you flip a coin, and you get tails, the attack does nothing, but if it is heads, it does like 80 damage, and it's a 1 energy monster with like 100 health. And it's just like,
I think.
Yeah, or Electabuzz is worse. If you hit tails, you just hurt yourself.
Oh, right.
So at least like there's a downside to that, but this is one card that you can just put out there, and then like you got like 3 hits in a row, and it's just one hit KO like my entire squad except for one. But by that time, there was no coming back. Now I'm curious, chat. If you play the actual card game, because even though I collected, I haven't played it in some time. Please let us know if that's how it works in the actual game, and if it's more balanced. Because I know in the actual TCG card game, you have larger decks. You have 8 prize points instead of 3, I believe it is. And whenever you get a prize point, you actually get a card every time you do it. So it's like a strategy to getting the prize points too. So this is like baby's first Pokemon TCG, and I mean that in the in the best way possible, right?
Yeah, I think they've streamlined it, and they've made it like a lot simpler. There's less rules. It makes the game shorter. I think it fits right in that like sweet spot, I think, that you want from like a mobile TCG, because you don't want every game to need like 8 points, right? Like every match would be really long, and people are going to want to like. That's part of what's so great about Marvel Snap, for example, right? Is like every game is 6 turns.
5 minutes.
So if you only have like a minute while you're sitting in the doctor's office or whatever, you can bust it out and play a quick round. Or if you want to sit and burn through 100 rounds, you could do that too. And you're rewarded for either approach, right? And I think those changes are all good. This one thing is just baffling to me, because there's no reason for it to be this way. And when I'm already okay with the fact that so many of the mechanics in this game come down to a literal coin flip, it's ridiculous that every match starts with a coin flip to be like, do you have a handicap?
Yeah, it's like so you're 100% spot on there. The other thing that annoys me and this might just be a me thing. This might very much just be a me thing. But am I the only one that doesn't really like the user interface that much, as far as how you like navigate the app? I like the way the game plays when you're opening packs and actually
like the game, like matches.
The matches.
Yeah.
Like when I'm like trying to navigate, I find myself clicking the wrong thing at the bottom all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's and I have like a Galaxy S22 Ultra, so I don't have like an old phone, but there's always just like a half-second delay. And maybe it's just me. Maybe it's something that can get streamlined and improved over time. I like the aesthetic, but I don't like the actual. Maybe I just have to get used to it.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. I've not had a big problem with like stuttering or anything like that. I have like a very new phone though. But I think it has too many menus. And like there's too many currencies, there's too many menus, there's not a like easy like glossary where you can look and be like, what does this thing do again? There's like a daily gift for login, and there's a thing that I keep getting where it's like a present in a box, and I still don't know what the currency does. I don't know if I've used it. I may have. I genuinely don't know.
There's so many currencies. There's a currency for like speeding up opening packs. There's a currency for the Wonder Picks. There's a currency for the monthly subscription pass. They just released their first event that has its own currency for Lapras.
Right.
It's so many different currencies.
There's the Meowth Chansey event that has its own currency too. Yeah, it's like there's just like there's.
Oh, I forgot about that. So there's a Lapras and a Chansey currency. Good God.
There's just too many little things, and I think that if I don't know that you need to like remove all these currencies now that they exist. All these systems are there. That's fine. But like, I don't want to have to go through like 5 different sub menus, and it's like weird to me what is featured and what isn't. Like when you're on the homepage, it's like the homepage has the button to open packs, it has messages, it has a gift button, it has featured cards, it has, a button for the shop and missions. But then when you open like the, slices on the side to open up like your kind of like quick menu, it's like a lot of the same things are also there, but then there's stuff that isn't on that, like items is on that list and items isn't on this other. So it's like, why do I have 2 different menus that I can access in the same, like, you know what I mean? Like, why do we even need this quick menu if everything's on the homepage except for one thing? Put that one thing on the homepage and give me one less thing to click on, right?
And just have it like, because there's enough space on the main screen that you can just like shrink 2 little things and have them be individual, easily clickable icons. Like, once again, I appreciate the aesthetic. I don't like the actual
I think
design.
It's just clumsy. I think there's like, it just needs to be a little bit easier to like navigate, I think. But I don't think that like
it's not going to be anything that ruins the game even in the long term.
No, and you'll get used to it even if they never change it. You'll just memorize where things are and you'll get less confused as you play. It's like that's kind of a normal part of any like, spreadsheety like menu based game. But like, yeah, I think it is bothersome to me because it's pretty clear that it could be simpler and it just isn't.
But it's not.
And that's weird. It is. Yeah, it's goofy that like there was a point earlier in this episode where you and I were trying to figure something out, and it's like, oh yeah, where do I have to go? Which okay,
it's like, is it there? It's
like why do I have to click like 4 buttons?
The point exchange. I thought the point exchange for like picking individual cards would logically be in the shop app. No, you have to go where you open a booster pack and hit this little thing in the bottom right corner. Like,
right, exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Who did that? Who thought that was a good idea? Not me.
It just leads to the situation where it's like, you can get confused doing something that should be very simple and very run-of-the-mill. And, like, to your point, I think that those are things that you can obviously iterate on and, like, update the UI and respond to, player feedback and heat maps of, like, where people are getting confused and stuff. It's all fine. But, like, yeah, for an experience that overall I'm really enjoying, it is something that's, like, the app itself feels behind where a game like Marvel Snap was on day one, I think.
Yeah, like I remember playing Marvel Snap around the time it launched. But it's been a minute. I know you still play it to this day. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I've definitely fallen off of it like quite a bit, but I still jump in from time to time and play just because I think it's a really fun game. I think it's had some balancing issues in the last year or so. But yeah, I still think it's a really great example of like how to do one of those games right.
Yeah, that and like what was it? Hearthstone or Hearthstone?
Hearthstone. That one I never really played much, but I have a couple friends.
I played a little bit of that. Yeah, I played a bit of that. Got really into it for about a month, and then I just stopped.
I had a similar experience with Magic: The Gathering Arena because I love Magic, and when I first started playing, and I was able to pop a ton of packs and like get a bunch of cards for free, I built a really, really good competitive deck that I used for 2 or 3 seasons, and then it got moved into Legacy where it was like no longer legal for general play, and I was like, well, I'm done with this game because there's no way for me to like unlock new cards in a way that's like gonna actually get me a deck unless I spend a bunch of money, and I don't want to do that. So
yeah, and at the end of the day, that's the issue with these, not just online card games, but like gacha games in general. You spend all this money, you get the meta thing, but then it gets replaced with a new meta, and you spend all this more money, and then when everything's said and done, you have nothing to show for it. That's why I always prefer the real thing. Even when things go out of style, if you get that alternative art, it stays in style.
All right, so before we get into the back half of the show here, where we're going to talk about Nintendo's latest financials, Let me remind you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of November. They are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valen, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and Also Boobies, Ty the Dude, Voodoo Vic, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Speaking of which, we've got some fun ones in the chamber this week. I got to talk about Dragon Age, the Veilguard, for 90 minutes over on Flip Screen Games podcast this week. Steve was kind enough to indulge me in my impressions on the first, 10 or so hours of the game that I got into there. So if you know anything about me...
That's a weird way to pronounce Metaphor Refantasio.
Yeah. I'll get to Persona 2 later, all right? I've been waiting 10 years for this game, my man. And if you are a Dragon Age fan, or if you know how much I love the series, I think it's a good conversation to go check out. And if you're maybe interested in checking out the game for yourself, even if you've never played the other ones, I think I'll have all your questions answered over there. So go check that one out. It was an episode I really enjoyed doing, and I would love if it performed well so I could have excuses to continue to talk about Dragon Age, because I love it so much. So go check it out. Let's get back to the show. So Nintendo had their latest financial report for their last quarter here. That's quarter 2 for fiscal year 2025. And, we got some new data. And I think it is pretty much where you would expect it to be this far into the life cycle of the console, and how the last couple quarters have been going, right? After, pretty much 7 uninterrupted years of extremely strong sales, the Nintendo Switch is slowing down. It is clearly not only plateaued, it is in its decline, I think, now, as people are waiting for the next thing, right? And they're ready for the next device.
Yeah, hardware down 31% year over year. That's how you know. But how old is the Switch at this point? It's at least
8 years.
8 years?
Right? This is year 8, is that right?
Let me look this up.
I think it's 2017,
Nintendo...
right? So
it's so weird. It feels like it was just yesterday.
It's in its 8th year, because its 7th birthday was earlier this year. So right now we're in the middle of its I guess the autumn of its 8th year.
Most of the console lasted that long without getting a refresh.
It would have been the PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, or PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 generation. That was about 8 years.
Yeah.
So it's had a fantastic run, right? To be 8 years in and to only have started to decline in this last calendar year and change is a massive W for that console, especially when you think about the fact that it never had a price reduction. That's unheard of.
Actually, yeah, you're right. They released the Switch Lite, right, and OLED. So they released a cheaper version, a more expensive version, but the main Switch,
never had a price cut.
Nintendo's huge on price cuts. The only console I can think of that got a price cut in its lifetime, I think they gave the price cut to the 3DS when it first came out.
Every other console's had a price cut at some point.
Not the Wii.
No, it did. They made the
eventually.
Yeah, but
once
again,
the Wii U
it
came
had
out.
one. They had the what was it, that the little red one that they made that was a budget unit that was I forget how much it cost. It was very inexpensive.
Little red one?
Yeah. Look it up. The red Wii. It was a model that they made.
When you say little red one, I'm trying to think what console did I miss? It's not the Wii U.
No, I mean the Wii. The Wii. There was a tiny red Wii that was the budget model of it.
Tiny red Wii. You should get that checked out, dude. That was
nice.
awful. That was...
No, I liked it.
Cut
it. Ken is gross. I'm gonna cut that out and embarrass you.
Oh man,
So yeah, for a console to have this level of success for this long without a price cut is I think unprecedented. Correct me if I'm wrong, dear listener. But aside from that, it's a lot of like I think kind of what you would expect in terms of like what some of the highlights are. Like we got another 2.58 million units for. Oh, I'm sorry, no, not another. That's for the new Zelda. The Echoes of Wisdom, right? Has got 2.58 million sales already. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door is like right under 2 million, 1.94. Luigi's Mansion 2 HD hit 1.5 million as well. So yeah, it's kind of like I think what you would expect performance wise for that like more like AA Nintendo title. They usually average a couple million in the early days.
It tells me the reason sales are going down is because everybody already has one, but they're still using it because they're still buying the games.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I think folks are definitely still activated for sure.
Yeah. And I just looked it up out of curiosity. The Switch is the third best-selling console of all time.
Yes.
Only behind, and I don't remember this being number 2, the Nintendo DS.
Yep, and the PS2.
And the PS2. But the thing is, it's only 8 million units away from surpassing the DS, and only 9 million units away from surpassing the PlayStation 2. And the PlayStation 2 was a very unique console because at the time, like at launch and like maybe like even the first year or two afterwards, it was the cheapest DVD player you could buy.
Right.
So there were a lot of people who didn't even get it for the games. They got it just for like a DVD CD player. I think that inflated those numbers a good bit.
And a lot of people don't realize how long it sold for. It was still being sold in Brazil up until the release of the PS4.
Really?
Yeah, because import costs are insane in Brazil. So buying like a new console is very expensive. So there's not a huge market there for like the PS3. Like didn't really pop off because it was already very expensive, and then adding the import tax, it was just a gross amount of money. But right, obviously Brazil is a place where soccer is really popular, and people were still like playing FIFA, and so like there was like a PS2 version of FIFA getting released up until very very late. So I think that also probably has something to do with it. But yeah, I mean the Switch is I think very very clearly on course to become the best selling console of all time, even with these reductions, right? Like this quarter, they sold 4.72 million units, which that 31% reduction is from 6.84 the previous Q1 to Q2. So even with that reduction, right, like say that happens again and it continues to decline, the thing is still going to sell for a couple years, right? Like that happens with every console. When the new one comes out, they'll probably finally drop the price, and then a bunch of people will buy it and will be late adopters. I think it might take a little bit, but I would be surprised if it didn't cross that additional 10 million units over the next two or 3 years or whatever.
Especially with like the way Nintendo works, whenever there's like a new console generation, they always try to schmooze it over. Like there's a reason why Breath of the Wild came out on the Wii U and the Switch, Twilight Princess came out on the GameCube and the Wii.
You think about how long they continued to support the 3DS after the Switch came out, because it's like, well, there's hundreds of millions of them in the wild, and we can still sell software on it, and there are people that aren't ready to switch over yet, so we're gonna continue to serve that part of the base.
Yeah, so you do believe that the Switch will eventually become the best-selling console of all time?
Oh yeah. To be transparent with you, if it doesn't do it by the end of the year, I'm going to include that on my predictions for next year for sure. I think so.
Really? Yeah, it's definitely not going to happen this year, but next year that's a possibility. Especially if they announce like the new Pokemon. No, they already announced the new Pokemon game, but it most likely come out on the current Switch and whatever they announce next year.
It'll probably be cross-gen.
Yeah, we should have our prediction episode. Let me know when that happens. I got some thoughts. But
you throwing in for this year? Okay.
Yeah, I'll throw in.
Hell yeah.
I'll see what's good.
Frankly, I need some new competition because Steve and Max, not cutting it. This is going to be the fourth year in a row that I absolutely crush their asses. And every year, you guys in the community get behind these absolute paper competitors because you want to see someone dethrone the goddamn champ, and you can't. That's why it's called. Yeah, and I'll show you, Ken. Here. Yeah. That's why they call it the Embassy Trophy, because I'm the winner. All right, and I've won it all 3 years that it's been in contention. Okay.
So when I beat you next year, do I get the Embassy Trophy?
Yeah, that's how it works. That's it. I named it after, and I know, like me, you're an indoor boy, so maybe you don't know this, but the trophy that they give for the Super Bowl, it's called the Lombardi Trophy, because that was I think coach who won it the first 2 years. They're like, hey, you win the first 2 of them, they name the trophy after you. Oh, you haven't even added my 3rd victory yet. I'm about to get a 4th victory this year. That's already 1/4 of the sides on the trophy for me. Nobody's even come close. This year they're like, oh, please. Please.
Yeah,
please.
Listen, all I'm going to say is that you haven't faced me, and this is how I win.
All I'm going to say to that is that's what Max said, and I smoked him too. So let's come correct if you're going to swing at the champ. That's all I got to say for you.
Come correct.
You better make sure your arms are long enough to box with God.
Yo, I got them arms. That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke.
No, I like it. So anyway, this is definitely, I think, where I expect this console to be at this point, and regardless of like, I guess, like, where the line is, I'm pretty confident that it sells an additional 9 million units in the next 2 or 3 years, even as it continues to trickle down. Unless, I think the only thing that potentially gets in the way of that is if Switch 2 comes out at like such a crazy aggressive price point that it's like, why would anyone buy an old Switch if I could get a new Switch for such a small amount of money? But I don't know. Like, I based on what we know about its specs, I think it's probably going to be more expensive than not.
Yeah, imagine if it's backwards compatible, but it's $400 and they don't lower the price of the Switch because people are still buying it.
I genuinely think that there's a very good chance that happens. I think that's not
there
unlikely.
You go. That's my first prediction.
Okay, save it.
Yeah, I'm saving it.
So, yeah, I think this is definitely one of those things where a good bundle too could go, like, if there's a good Black Friday bundle this year, that'll help push it over. Like, a price cut, I think, guarantees it. I think it's a pretty small amount of effort they need to put in to hit that point.
Reclaim the crown, take it from Sony.
Yeah. So we'll see. But the only other thing I wanted to like call out that I thought was pretty cool was they mentioned that they had 9 different titles that were million copy sellers, 6 of which were Nintendo, 3 of which were third-party games. So, like, to your point, still a lot of software being sold, even though there was a decrease. Like, it was a 27% reduction in software year over year. But I think that like kind of speaks to like the fact that Zelda came out in that quarter, which like
that bumped some things up,
right? Right, like of course that happened. That's not surprising,
of course. And oh wait, so I don't know if you guys talked about this on like the last episode or two, but Sakurai, the guy who makes all the Smash games, he mentioned that all of his videos were pre-recorded like 3 or 4 years ago on his YouTube channel, and he's been working on a secret game for the last 3 or 4 years. And the reason I bring that up is because Smash Ultimate has surpassed 35 million sold, the best-selling fighting game of all time.
Absolutely
Nobody
wild.
Does it like Nintendo.
Nobody does it like Sakurai.
True, that too.
I hope nothing more than the fact that the game that he teased is not a Smash game, for his sake. I need him to be done with it, for his sake. He's given us decades of his life, his hands, like, just be done. You did it. You did it. We don't need another Smash for 10 years.
Yes, we do.
No, leave it alone.
Listen, this is what I want. Hear me out. Smash Brothers Ultimate Deluxe. All the characters from the Ultimate, and it's just like a remaster with maybe an extra game mode or two, so it's not quite a full-fledged sequel. Doesn't come with the DLC, but if you bought the DLC, it works with the game. Okay. That's how they get away with some of the licensing in terms of the built-in game and the DLC. That's the only way you can get all the characters back, if that's even feasible. And then they add like 10 more characters, they get over 100, and they close the book. Because there are only a handful of franchises that aren't represented in Smash that deserve to be there.
He can't do it. He can't give more. Just leave him. Leave him. Let him hang up his sword.
If he's building on top of Smash Ultimate instead of trying to come up with something new, I don't think it would be as much work.
Yeah, but it'll still be like years of his life. Leave him alone. Let him make something else. Jesus. Between that and Kirby, it's like, just let him make a new game, please.
Let him make another Pit Icarus. Is that what you want, Pete?
That game was cool. All right? Leave him alone. Let him make new games. He deserves it. Yeah. He deserves to put his blade down. He's fought so valiantly for us.
And I thought you wanted Master Chief in Smash. For shame.
Look.
Where's Waluigi? I will not rest until Waluigi's up in there.
Listen, he needed to put 12 Fire Emblem characters in the game, and he is allowed because he worked his body to the bone for this game. Leave him alone.
Yo, but I love it. Just give me one. I just want to see Sora fight in the next game. And the only way I see that happening is if they do an Ultimate Deluxe. So would you prefer? An Ultimate Deluxe that, rebalances some of the characters. That was a sneeze. Thank you. So, run back. Which would you prefer? If you had to pick one or the other, a new game's not an option in this scenario.
Okay.
Would you rather a Smash Ultimate Deluxe, basically what I just described, building on top of Ultimate and adding an extra 10 to 15 characters to just have like the largest fighting game of all time with new stages and music? Or would you rather him go back to Smash with a significantly smaller roster, like let's say half even, but they rework the majority of the move sets of the legacy characters? So each character feels different and unique, almost like a reboot, but still the same core Smash.
I would rather have an Ultimate Deluxe in that scenario because I am firmly of the opinion that they should take a break from Smash. I think that Ultimate, it's the Ultimate, right? Like it's an insanely large game with an insane amount of content, and I just don't know that we need to rush into another one. I think you have, when you look at like the jump that Smash went through from 1 to Melee to Brawl, right? And how different each of those games are. And then you kind of have a period from Brawl on where like the amount of difference between each game feels less, I think. And obviously there's like very significant mechanical changes between each of them and a lot of new characters and everything like that. But like Ultimate feels like the culmination of everything that's come before, and it feels like very much the definitive take on what Smash has been under Sakurai's, leadership. And yeah, I would just rather them, I think, like take a generation off and not touch it and come back with something that is like radically different later rather than...
You want a generation off?
Yeah. We just did it for Mario Kart. Mario Kart 8.
Okay, true.
Mario Kart 8, literally we just talked about how Mario Kart 8 outsold every new game they released this year.
We did, and if that's what they do, I'm cool with it, because what I just described is basically Mario Kart 8 but for Smash Ultimate.
Exactly.
If you do the same exact thing for Smash Ultimate, I'm down for that.
I think that's
just
what you do.
Build on top of it.
I think you do a deluxe, and if you want to add more characters or more levels or whatever, great. But I don't even know that you need to do that, honestly. Like, it's like the game has so much content. It's like it's still selling a lot. It literally just became the best-selling fighting game of all time. Do we really need to push another one out? That like
yes,
but like
yes,
where do you go from here? Where do you go from here though?
More. That's what you do.
Yeah, but like
just go bigger.
Yeah, but who's gonna do that?
Sakurai.
He's not gonna do it. He can't.
It's his job.
He can't.
It's his job.
He can't. He can't do another bigger game.
Yes, he can.
Bro.
Let me do it this way.
He can't.
If he started from scratch, he can't do a bigger game. If he builds on top of the giant game that's already there, it can get bigger.
He's 54 years old. If he makes another Smash game, he will be 60 before it's done. Leave him alone.
But he looks 36.
Not anymore. He doesn't. he's great.
Those videos were pre-recorded. I don't know what he looks like these days.
Here's the thing. Smash is too important, too core to Nintendo for there to never be another one, right? But I think when you are coming off of a game that is like the size and scope of what Smash is, what Ultimate is, and like it being a absolute culmination of like all of the games that came before, getting so many like I cannot believe that they got that character in it. It's just like I don't know that there's a way to up the ante that is actually going to feel bigger and better and more spectacle than this one, unless you really take a lot of like a lot of time to kind of like to your point, like consider what a reboot looks like. Like you can't I don't think you can just keep making a new one that has 25 more characters. I think you're going to get to a point. I think you're going to get to a point where it's like diminishing returns, you know? And I say this as somebody that loves how much is in that game and how like impossible to balance it is because of how much stuff there is. But like I just don't know how you more, right? Like constantly line must go up. Like that never lasts forever and people get sick of it or they get burnt out. And like, I think your best bet for Smash to move forward at this point is to do something that is different and smaller and that is like meaningfully trying to, I guess for lack of a better phrase, like reinvent the wheel a little bit, right? And be like, what does a new Smash look like versus me, a new developer coming in and trying to like wear Sakurai's hat, right? Because like, you know, I think you look at something like the Zelda franchise, right? And how, you know, Breath of the Wild being a like new, like clean break, right? Was what it needed to feel fresh again and to be relevant again on a bigger stage and everything. And I think if Smash as a franchise wants to avoid having a slump or like a fatigue, I think the best thing they could do right now would be to take a step back, rest on the laurels of Ultimate, and let it continue to sell. Put out a deluxe version, you know, that has all the DLC on the cart and whatever and runs a little better and whatever. Great. If you can add stuff, great. But I think barring that, I think if the goal is we need the next Smash for Switch 2, I mean, if anyone can pull it off, it's the psychopaths at Nintendo. But I think there's a reason that you didn't make a Mario Kart 9 after Mario Kart 8, and I think Ultimate is in a similar spot where it's like, yeah, I think you pretty much perfected it, and I think it will probably continue to sell through another generation if you position it right.
Yeah, it's just like after getting a new Smash game for every single generation since the N64, I don't know. It's almost like a tradition. They got to run it back.
That was true for Mario Kart too, though, right? There was a new Mario Kart.
Was it?
Super Nintendo, 64, Double Dash, Mario Kart Wii, Mario Kart 7, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Yeah, like that's every Nintendo console. I mean, there was the GBA one too, and so it's like every console I think has had a Mario Kart, and or close to it, right? And I mean, we didn't need a new one. It's still selling. It's still selling now. 8 years in, that game is. How old is that game?
It's pretty old, but to be fair, they did add a lot of content, including like the course pass to Mario Kart 8.
Sure.
They, like consistently pump
but that's
blood
the thing
into
is like
it.
that's the thing I think you could do
ultimate.
without Sakurai. You could add stages. I think fighters, like things like that, are, it's a higher lift. But I'm trying to find the original release date for this thing.
Mario Kart 8 came out in 2014 on the Wii U.
The 2012.
2014.
I thought I just saw.
Wait,
is that wrong?
Let me see. It says Wii U 2014 on Wiki. Now, Wiki isn't the definitive source, but that's still a long time. That
yeah. I mean, it's 10
14,
years.
Or 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So that's correct. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at with it, right? Is that like I don't know that we need to rush the next one. I think you ride the wave a little bit longer and do something new when you have something new, not
because you have to.
Let's get another developer to come in and try to fill Sakurai's shoes with this massive level of expectation. Whereas if you wait an entire generation and we go 10 years without a new Smash, whatever the next one is, even if it's radically different, there'll be excitement for it and it'll be easier to sell people on a new idea, or more of the same, because it'll have been gone for 10 years and it won't be like I'm still playing Ultimate. What do I need another one for?
You were just talking about how Sakurai needs to rest, and you want him to wait until he's in his mid-60s to start the next one?
No, he needs to retire. We need a new person to come in and do it, and that is the primary reason I think you wait, right? Because it's like it needs to be a passing of the torch, a changing of the guard. I don't think Sakurai has another Smash in him. I don't. And I think if all we can think of Smash as is his vision of it, then I don't know how it does anything but ends up in a situation where it's chasing its own tail, right? You need to have the same moment that, oh my gosh, what's his name? Aonuma, right? Is the leader of the Zelda team, right? Like, he didn't create Zelda. Miyamoto passed it off to him at some point, and that's when we got Ocarina. And then his same team, however many years after that, right? Like, was like, okay, well, we've been chasing that formula for 10 years. It's time to, or even longer, it's time to create a new take on it. And now moving forward, that's what Zelda's going to mean. And I think it's time for that. I think we've had 5 incredible Smash games that have all built on the previous one and followed that lineage, and now it's probably time to think about what comes next.
So imagine it's the Game Awards 2025. Sakurai comes out and says he's passing the torch to Peter Molyneux.
To an even older man? How old is he now? He's 65. In 10 years, you want 75-year-old man, Peter Molyneux. No.
He said this will be my biggest project ever.
I think you need, a person who's, 30, 25. We need somebody who's young who can put their heart and soul into this.
In the next, half of their life.
Yeah, that's the thing. Right? Really meaningfully making a Smash game is you're sinking a half a decade or more into that, right? It's and especially if they want to keep the roster size that big. So yeah. And it's an interesting question, because I do think that whatever comes next, it's going to have to be a big shift, because there's no way that it's going to be the same team.
But, regardless, I feel like the beginning of next year, probably starting in February, and then when's Pokemon Day?
I can't remember.
Pokemon Day is February 27th. So they wait till the holidays are over because they don't want to cannibalize their holiday sales by announcing a Switch 2. They announced a Switch 2 in January. They show off the new Pokemon game in February. Like the beginning of next year is going to hit like crack in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm very interested in when they actually reveal it, because I figured it would be earlier in the year, and it would be like it revealed in January, it's out in a similar timeline as the original, but I actually think it's probably gonna come in April now, because I think if it was,
well, they said by April, but I guess in April they can get away with that.
Yeah, because I mean by April is like, well, if it's the first week of April, then it's like that's April, right? But I don't know, maybe not, because that's technically when the next quarter starts. So maybe you do it at the end of that period. But either way, I'm increasingly thinking it's going to be a longer amount of time out rather than immediately in the beginning of the new year, just because I think if it was going to be revealed, I think that you would see that predicted in their projections, right, for upcoming quarters, right? Like that's part of these announcements or these financial reviews, is like they talk about like what
Pump up the stock market,
and they talk about what their expectations are. We expect we're going to make this amount of money this year based, whatever, even if they don't tell you the reason, which is something that like I know like Steve has used on Flip Screen Games when we've been talking about like when's Grand Theft Auto 6 going to come, right? And it's like, well, we'll know because they're going to project like $1 billion coming in so a certain quarter, and then you're gonna know, right, whether or not there's a trailer or not. If they're telling you, well, we expect we're gonna make a giant truck of money in quarter 3, it's like, I wonder why, right? So
place your bets.
I'm inclined to think that it's either gonna get revealed right at the end, right, and then it's maybe right in Q2, but I don't know. Like, I mean, we know that they want to kind of like, I think, hold on to it as long as they can to ensure that they have the software pipeline that they're looking for. And when you think about
the hardware to meet whatever demands, and they want to also release it earlier enough to ramp up to next year's holiday season. Like it's getting announced and it's coming out next year. And yeah, I don't even think that's a prediction. I think that's like a guarantee at this point. It's just a matter of the exact date. But I think Q2 makes sense. And it gives them more time to release more games throughout the year, make more things. I
hope that's the case. I really do.
Fair.
I will be disappointed if it's an early reveal and then we find that it's not like coming until the fall or something, like a more traditional console release time. But I mean, yeah, I think it extremely makes sense that they're looking to extend the life of this thing as literally as long as they can, because it's a pretty unprecedented success in terms of how much it's sold, and that it's never, like, when they started selling it, right, it was being sold at a profit. That's generally not the case, right? Most consoles are sold at a slight loss, and they make their money back once you buy at least one game, right? And the kind of like conventional wisdom is like, well, you're not going to buy a console and not buy a game, so we get our profit on that first purchase, and then you're locked into the ecosystem, and we start.
And then we
making
get money from the yearly subscriptions and everything else.
But even before there were those things, right? Like back in that was the model,
profit.
right? We sell hardware at a loss, we make money on the software. And the Switch, was using slightly old technology when it came out. It was sold at a profit on every unit. They never cut the price of it. And it's had multiple huge blockbuster success games. The fact that they're sitting on, the billions and billions of dollars of, I shouldn't say dollars, billions and millions of yen that they're sitting on, that's, it's no mistake, right? Like, it's like they had an extremely huge W with the Switch, and they want to wring as much blood as they can out of that stone. And that way, if the Switch 2 comes out and it stumbles, or it takes time to connect, or it's a flop, like, they can weather the storm and move on.
Yeah, not for nothing, Nintendo has enough money in the bank to weather, like, 4 Wii U level, like, catastrophes.
Right, which is insane. Like, literally, they could make no money, I think, for, like, 10 years or something like that, and they'd still be fine.
And pay all the employees and not fire most of them. Like, certain businesses, don't get me started.
Yeah, like literally not even making concessions. And I forget exactly what the line is, but Steve like did the math on one episode. So if you're a listener, you probably remember that conversation. But yeah, it's like they're in an insanely advantageous position, and they're also expanding their revenue streams, right? Like they're making money on theme parks now. They had a $1 billion movie. They got a couple more of those in the chamber that'll probably make the same amount of money, if not more. Assuming that they, connect the same way the first one did, right? Yeah. So I mean, that's like it. As someone who makes a hobby and a job out of following this stuff like we do, like you dear listener and us here on the show, like we're sitting there like, Jesus Christ, when's this thing coming out? But like, for them it's like, man, like they'd be silly not to try and make as much money as they can before the Nintendo Switch Golden Goose era is over, because they don't have, they've historically, the follow-up to their big successful console usually is a step back, right? DS, more successful than 3DS. Wii, obviously more successful than the Wii U. N64 was more successful than GameCube. I think the only example where that doesn't hold true is NES to Super NES, but I don't even remember if that's the case.
Yeah, the Super NES actually sold less than the NES.
There you go. So I was right about that.
But it wasn't like a failure.
It wasn't. No. And not to say that any of those consoles were failures, but the point is that just because the Switch was a titanic success doesn't guarantee the Switch 2 will be. And I think that they're very intentionally taking their time, lining their ducks up so that it has the best chance to be a success, and that if it doesn't, they've made as much money as they could make on the Nintendo Switch before they, burn that bridge.
Yeah, not for nothing, the odds of them having any other console as successful as the Switch again is slim to none. It's like, because when it surpasses the PS2, it would break up, by the time it does it, a 25-year-old record.
Right. Yeah.
So you're spot on there.
Yeah. So it's like, as much as you want to hope that that's going to be the case, we don't know. So, I think that's exactly why we're where we're at, where they're running out the clock, right? Until it's literally the 11th hour, and then, all right, great, let's capitalize. Which, fair enough. So
fair enough.
We will, of course, keep you guys privy to all the updates as they happen when it comes to Nintendo's financials and the, inevitable countdown here to Nintendo Switch 2, which I kind of can't believe we're still talking about, but it does, it's finally feels close.
I'm excited to see what happens next. Dude.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it.
Yeah, I just want to know, right? Even if I knew I had to wait longer, I just would love to have some information. But yeah, I think it's definitely been a noticeably quieter year than any other year of its life cycle. So it's pretty clear we're in the winter for Nintendo.
They're loading
Switch.
some things into the chamber, storing up the nuts for winter.
And yeah, you got to imagine that, to your point, right? That like they have a lot of like big swings ready to go seemingly at the start of that next generation.
And Pokemon Year 1 improved for the Switch 2.
And you got to imagine, I would imagine the next 3D Mario is probably in the first year or two as well, because it's like all this momentum with the theme park and the movie, and Odyssey was obviously, successful, and it's been, we haven't gotten anything else from that team since then. So, and there's that rumor, they started that internal Donkey Kong team that's supposed to be working on a 3D Donkey Kong game. They have a movie coming out. It would be a great time to bring him back into the forefront as they're trying to like rise. He has a new roller coaster. Like, I think there's all this like synergy that like points to, some of these like big things that it could be time for again, which, I think that has been like this last year or two of just like, yeah, what's left to do on the Switch? You've done it all, right? There's been a great game in every franchise pretty much. So
yeah, the Switch is like that one meme. I got one more in me. I ain't hear no bell.
Exactly. That's exactly where it's at. But yeah, so let me know what you guys think in the comments. I'm interested in hearing like how you've been getting on with Pokemon TCG Pocket. Are you enjoying it? Do you have any complaints that we didn't address? And what do you make of these Nintendo Switch numbers? Do you think it'll become the best-selling console of all time, or is it gonna maybe take the silver medal instead? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But
it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But
I think
that's
so.
just my 2 cents.
And of course, you can write in with your 2 cents in a bunch of ways by heading over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you'll find links to all the places you can get involved. Join the Discord and keep the conversation rolling. Head on over to Patreon if you want to go above and beyond and show your support. Go check out our sister shows, the Flipscreen Games podcast, where we've got a deep dive on the first 10 hours of Dragon Age, the Veilguard, or the Steam Deck podcast if you want to hear conversation about what's going on in the world of handheld games outside of Nintendo. Wherever you choose to get the show, however you choose to get involved, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Ken. We'll see you next week.
Ooh.